What's good, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Carter Sports Coverage. I'm your boy, SB Cash. As y'all can see, Ryan not here with me. He'll be back this week. He has some things going on. Shout out to him. But we're going to keep the show rolling on this week's episode of Carter Sports Coverage. So, y'all, first off, I want to say this. Y'all know we are, I keep saying it, Carter Sports Coverage, but this is powered by Feed Me Sandwich King. Shout out to the man that puts everything together, DJ Marv. And let's get into this week's episode. So in this week's episode, I want to talk about, the first thing I want to talk about is the Lakers. The Lakers struggles, the Lakers woes, my whole frustration. I'm going to air out everything, how I really feel about the Lakers and my whole feeling about the whole situation out there. And you got to hear me on this one because I'm a Laker fan, big Laker fan, been for a while. So we're going to talk about it. And then the last thing I want to talk about is just playoff push, and then there's a couple different topics, good things and bad things going on with a lot of different teams, and I'll let you know the key things that I'm looking at from certain teams. So, let's first dip into it with the LA Lakers. My squad, my team, my squad for years, we've been riding, man, like through the highs, through the lows. It was a lot of highs, Kobe and Shaq, then, you know what I mean? We had a couple bad years, then we got it popping back again with Kobe and Gasol. Then Kobe got older, you know what I mean? Started getting sad for us again, but then we started building draft picks. We started getting higher draft picks, so we started having the talent come in over the years, you know what I'm saying? After Kobe, you know, on his way out, retired, got a lot of young talent coming in. Team, like, the promise is coming back, the hype coming back to the team. We getting that pride back, and it's just like, it's cool. So then we end up getting LeBron, right? We end up getting LeBron, like 2 years ago? And it's a move. I was happy for it at first. I definitely am happy for it, obviously, because he didn't win the championship the first year, but he won the championship his second year with the Lakers. Shout out to AD and them that year, 2020 in the bubble. Definitely the toughest season NBA ever had, and LeBron deserves all the credit for that. My thing about this year is, okay, look at NBA teams. It's like, teams acquire players, and and the thinking of it is to build a championship contending team that can contend for a championship, right? That's what every team's doing, or unless you're just in rebuild mode and got a whole bunch of young players. Most of the teams with the really good players are trying to put other good players around them so they can compete for a championship. So my whole thing is the thinking into after we won the championship in 20 and didn't win last year to coming in this year was to bring it back to that. Am I right, Laker fans, Laker Nation? That was the whole thinking. Let's bring it back to championship contending team after we had a second round exit last year. So, you know, like that was the hype. My thinking this whole offseason, when they first was saying that, you know, bring it back to a championship contending team, then all the names that was on free agency, I want to point out specifically, like, they said Kyle Lowry was on free agency. Like, these is when these players first came available. Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan. Them was my top two. Like, everybody else that was on the free agency people was talking about, my top two was always Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan. And I felt like that because they're both efficient players. They're both selfless players, like they're team players. And you know what I'm saying? It would have worked for the Lakers with either or player. It was a possibility we could have had both. I remember them talking about that in all season. But I was ready to get both. Also, the fact that DeMar DeRozan was willing to take a pay downgrade just to come out with LeBron and play. He wanted to come back home to LA and play. And I don't know. The Clippers and the Lakers basically just didn't pay that no attention that DeRozan wanted to come out here and play. Right? So it's like now we're looking at this. We're deep in the season now. Now we're looking at this. Lakers, 9th place. We're about 3 games back. The Clippers are actually in the 8th spot. We're in the 9th spot. And it's just looking sad. We lose every game. Last 3 games, we lost to the Clippers. We lost to the Pelicans in a blowout. A horrible blowout. And we lost to, recently, just the Mavs. A game that we showed some fight. But at the end of the day, we lost again. And it's like 3 straight losses. This is all we're doing, and it doesn't even look like it's encouraging. So, Laker Nation, my thing is, like, do we want to get to the play-in? Do we really want to go to the play-in? Like, I personally, I'm looking at it like, yeah, I'm looking at it from a realistic standpoint. Like, that's just where we're at. Like, we're not about to be, 6th seed or nothing like that. We're looking at, man, granted they get hot, maybe we make a 7, but I don't even think that it's just so discouraging. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So a lot of people was looking at me like I'm being harsh on Laker Nation, and I shouldn't be this harsh, but it's just the truth. Like, when you come into the season with the expectations to have that championship team, I feel like, and it's working out the way it is. Like, we didn't have to be the number 1 seed, but man, not like at this point in the season. If I would have told y'all in the offseason, like, we're not even going to be in the top 8 spots. Nobody would have believed me. It would have been a lot of betting people in there. So that's what I'm saying. Somebody needs some blame for that. I don't really know who to blame but LeBron or AD, because I feel like they both had a hand in putting this team together, bringing this group of guys together. And it's not that I even hate I like certain people on the roster. It's just we got to play better. I don't know what's not working. Defense has obviously been lacking. But I don't, Laker Nation, am I being harsh? That's the question. Because I feel like I'm not. I feel like I'm being real. Like, somebody needs some blame for that. And if you look around, at first I give Frank Vogel a little blame just for bad, but it's like, how much can you do with what you got? You know what I mean? Coaches just got to be looked at from that standpoint sometimes. So it's like, I look at LeBron. He grounded the team up. I like, you could look at the GM and stuff, but really you have to look at Bron. Bron has a hand in who's on that team and what's going on. So I hope they get it together. I hope they do make the play-in, because that's what we're looking at right now. So to move on to my next topic, the playoff push and all that. I really don't want to talk playoff push. I'm just going to hit different pinpoints on different things going on, right? So Chicago Bulls have the number 2 record in the East. They obviously been playing very great this year. DeMar DeRozan is an MVP candidate. I love their team. They're grit, they're fight. I like what they do. Chicago, they're giving them a great season out there. But the one notable thing and stat that I have noticed is Chicago's only downfall is, even though they're number 2 in the East, they always lose to good teams. They're 0-7 against the Suns, the Grizzlies, the Warriors, and the Heat. Those are all the top teams in the NBA. So that's something to keep an eye on. Like, a lot of people have a lot of faith in Chicago, and I do too, but I just haven't given them that full faith. And that's one of the reasons, because they haven't beat top teams at all, actually. 0-7. Next topic I want to move to, Denver Nuggets. So as y'all know, Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray has been out for a while. We haven't seen him since the bubble. The bubble, when he was going crazy, man. I feel like that year that they played in the bubble, he was the best player in the bubble. Jimmy Butler also was really good that year. And both of those guys, I think those were the top 2 players in the bubble, Jimmy Butler and Jamal Murray. But he's been out for a long time, almost looking like 2 years now. So the talk in Denver is they may get him back. They actually may get him back in the next month or 2, heading toward playoff time. And they also might get back, they're supposed to get back sooner, probably, Michael Porter Jr. So you know how explosive he was for their offense these last couple of years. So that's key, man. I want people to really pay attention to that. Denver gets them back. That means Joker gets some help, and it's the help he needs, man. And Jamal been out for some while, so I think he'll come back fairly healthy now. He's been out for some time to rehab. I don't know how extensive that injury was, but he's been out for a while, so I think he can come back and be pretty effective. Michael Porter Jr., you know what he does. If he's not scoring, he's going to rebound the ball. Look out for Denver. That was one key thing I wanted to say. Next thing, I want to give a big shout out to Tyronn Lue. Tyronn Lue, the coach of the Los Angeles Clippers. Okay? The Clippers are in the 8th spot in the West right now. They're holding strong. A big key to that is the Lakers haven't been playing good, so they're just holding strong right now because the Lakers keep losing. But they also have been winning games over recently. I think they've won 4 of their last 5, if I'm not mistaken. And they're doing all this. Kawhi Leonard hasn't played all season, and Paul George was playing, but he hasn't played for almost a month to a month and a half to 2 months now. Like, it's something around in that area. We have seen close to 2 months that Paul George hasn't been playing with an injury, and it's looking like it's going to take a little more time for him to come back from his injury. So the Clippers are doing, I'm not saying doing all this, but they're in the 8th seed and they're holding strong. And I feel like if Clippers make the playoffs, Tyronn Lue definitely needs his due diligence for keeping that team motivated without having their best 2-star players. That's definitely something to say right there. Shout out to Tyronn Lue. Definitely showing he's a good coach, man. You know what I mean? Next topic. Let's move to Philly. Philadelphia 76ers, man, taking off, man. Last 2 games they played, James Harden got with Joel B, and it's looking unstoppable. It's looking crazy. The stats have been off the chart. A lot of free throws getting shot. You putting two players that get to the line a lot at the free throw line. 76ers looking really well through 2. What I will say is everybody's really like going nuts over these 2 games. I feel like Philly's moving to everybody's new favorite out the East. And don't get me wrong, they're definitely there, but I feel like people are kind of overreacting. Like, let's see them against the Warriors. Let's see them against the Suns. Let's see them against Grizzlies, the Heat, the good teams. You know what I mean? Let's calm down. These are only 2 games. But I definitely think it has the potential to be great. So shout out to Joel, shout out to James Harden. Philly looking nice headed to the playoffs. Next thing I want to talk about, Knicks definitely trending downwards right now. They had a bad month of February. They was looking like they was having a pretty good season at first before All-Star weekend. Before All-Star break, but it's just looking bad coming down the stretch. As you know, it was a playoff team last year. They got there. It was a playoff. I forget who they played in the playoffs, but it was a series I thought they could win, and they went out pretty bad last year, first round. So a lot of people looking at that in New York too, man. You know, the NBA is better when Knicks is good, so it's like everybody want to see them make the playoffs. I want to see them too, but they got to get it together right now because they're definitely trending downwards. Next thing I want to talk about, Phoenix Suns, best team in the West. Have a 6-game lead on first place in the West over the Warriors, of course. So those are the top 2. But they've been playing without Chris Paul. Chris Paul's injured. He's been injured for a while. Been playing without him. Devin Booker was actually on his back to being the playmaker that he is, facilitating the ball. But recently, I believe he just had to go into COVID protocol. So that's a thing to keep an eye on, how long he'll be there and what the Suns will do in the games that he's actually in COVID protocol because, they do have a good lead right now. Actually, they're sitting pretty good. 6 games, you know what I mean? But that is something to keep an eye on because when will Chris Paul come back and just how long will Devin Booker be out? So let's keep an eye on that. And the last thing I want to talk about is the Brooklyn Nets. As y'all know, they acquired Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond. Ben Simmons still hasn't suited up for the Nets. I'm not sure what's going on. And honestly, to be honest with y'all, man, let me tell you my thinking on this. Like, man, he sat out all season. I'll say this. He sat out all season. I feel like he should be ready for this moment. He said all he wanted was a trade. He said he just didn't want to play in Philly. He was good. He was ready. Come on, where you at? Brooklyn needs you. You know what I mean? But maybe they waiting on something because KD's also been injured. He should be on his way back this week. That's what they're saying. KD should be coming back this week. So, listen, as much as I've been mad at Ben Simmons for what he's been pulling up this last year, I am interested to see him with the Nets only because I think from a basketball standpoint, it could work. Just like, what different role players can bring to a team, it can work. But he has to come play, man. That's you know what I'm saying? He just has to come play. And that is the end of Carter Sports coverage, man. Shout out to everybody that puts this together and keeps involved in this and tunes into this and watches it, man. We appreciate y'all. I also want to say the NFL Combine is, this week. So, the Super Bowl just happened last month. We already to the NFL Combine. It's going to be tough to cover the whole thing, but we'll definitely keep an eye on the top prospects and who the top teams in the draft are looking to take. We'll definitely bring that to you. Also, I want to say this. If you guys have any questions or things you want me to talk about on the show, I want to say questions. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer, me and Ryan when he returns next week, to answer on the show, we will answer them. Send them to my inbox when I post the show on IG or Twitter or Facebook. I'm welcoming all questions, any sports questions, any debates, bring it. You know what I'm saying? I'm here, I'm ready. I'm willing. That's the end of Carter Sports coverage, man. We'll definitely catch y'all next week. Shit. Definitely take that chair out.
Oh.